Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Lou Andre back again for this week's edition of Beyond Dressing Well Facebook Live. And we have another very interesting program for all of you tonight. So a couple of announcements at the top of the hour, as we usually do to get started. I've actually been a busy bee since I last saw you. Since last Wednesday, I traveled to Hamilton, New York to go to my son John's football game, and it was just great. We took Miss Susie Q with us, her first hotel stay. It was her birthday weekend, so we're officially old. We drive around with our dog, but we stayed in a hotel with her, and it was just so fun. And we dressed her up in Tufts University apparel, which was even more fun. And what was extra fun was the look on my son John's face when he saw her at the tailgates. That was a lot of fun. And then I came home Saturday night after a busy 2 days. We went down Friday. What a beautiful area, upstate New York. And turned around Sunday and spent all day Sunday down in Rhode Island working with a client on a photography shoot. So there was 8 changes of clothes, and it was just such a blast. And I wanted to mention it because both Sarah Zengo and I both have a lot of experience with photography and photo shoots. So if that's something that you need, please call us. But what a delightful day I had. And I always learned so much. There were so many different folks on the set. They were videoing and photographing. And it was just an awesome day. It was beautiful. Rhode Island is just gorgeous, and got to practice my craft outdoors all day with some amazing people and have some new friends after hanging out with these folks for 8 hours. So wanted to share that with you. And then of course, those of you that follow us on social, we had a little birthday post on Susie for Monday. So we got Susie 6 years ago. She's 8. We got her when she was 2. So that old saying, who rescued who? I know in my house, Susie knows the answer, but just such a fun memory. And we got her on All Saints Day. So I just love that. So those are my updates. Of course, it's November, so we're in full on holiday mode. We'll be we're open for business. We have gift certificates, DM me, DM Sarah, we'll get back to you. And we also have another first this weekend. We are throwing our first retreat up in Manchester, Vermont. So I'll put in the chat if you have ever been to Manchester, Vermont. My husband and I went in July to do a site visit, and it was just so awesome. It rained the whole time we were there, but it was still awesome. So we're going to the Equinox Spa and hotel, and we're bringing a group of women that are in our first Thrive program. And if you've been paying attention, we will be rolling that program out in January for others. But this was our pilot group. We had an amazing year, and we are all going and having a retreat. And the name of the retreat is Relax, Reflect, and Renew. So we'll have lots to share when we come back from Manchester, and delighted that Sarah Zengo is able to come, and also Kathy Smith and our team is able to come. So that is just going to be so much fun. And tonight, we are breaking our segment into 2 components, and I'm so excited to introduce our special guest in a moment. But how this all came together was we have been working with Maria for a couple months, since May, when we had so many problems with Facebook Live. And I put in one of my business chats, I just said, does anybody know what's going on with Facebook? And Maria and I met in this forum. We were on the phone within 2 hours, and I was pulling my hair out trying to figure out what was going on with Facebook. And she figured it out, and she has been on our lives ever since. So she's always behind the scenes, and it's so great to have her come out from behind the scenes. But I also follow her on social, and I realized that she's a veteran. So our original plan was to celebrate her next Wednesday. But then when I realized that it's actually National Veteran Small Business Week, and Maria runs a business, and Sarah's going to be putting up her credentials. If you're anyone that needs tech support and marketing support and operations and all those things that us entrepreneurs don't like. I think Maria is the entrepreneur's best friend. She's certainly one of my best friends now. Every time everything goes crazy, and actually nothing goes crazy when Maria's here. So she's also just got wonderful energy and great karma. And I just wanted to, first of all, introduce her. Hello, Maria.
Hello.
For our guest, she's in the chat with us a lot too. And also just to two things. Thank you for saving us in your service. And also thank you for your service to our country. We're going to share, my dad was a Marine. My grandfather was in the Navy, and we've got some photos to throw up. So I have great respect for what you have done for our country. And I'm just so delighted that you agreed to come and not only share your story, but let the rest of us reflect on what it means to be in the military, what that entails, and the sacrifices that you've made for our country. So, Maria, I am going to hand it over to you to tell your story. I know bits and pieces of it, but thank you and welcome. Thank you.
No, it is my pleasure. It's been great working with you. I love fixing any tech puzzles. So, when I saw your post in that group, I'm like, oh, something I can figure out and fix. So I love the challenge when things, technology doesn't work sometimes. I thrive on fixing those types of issues. So I definitely jumped on that, and it's been great working with you and your team ever since.
Oh, thank you so much, Maria. So I saw a post on your social
Yes.
About your military service, and I did not know that about you, and it really stopped me in my tracks. It was very well written, and it was when Colin Powell just passed away, you had
Right.
written a tribute to him. So walk us through. I know that you went into the military, the Marines.
You
When
did.
did you tell me 19?
I was 17. I actually swore into the Marine Corps I raised my right hand on my 17th birthday. When I got on the bus to go to the processing center, I was still 16. I woke up 17 and did it. So I'm sure I made my mom grow a few extra gray hairs, I have three brothers, so being the only girl and sending me off like that. But yeah, I swore in on my 17th birthday. So I was a baby. I was very young.
Oh my goodness. So walk us through your decision making. What inspired you to do that?
I wanted to do it since I was a little girl, believe it or not. I think I made the decision to have that be a part of my journey when I was, I think, 11 or 12. I was very young. And a neighbor across the street was actually in the Marines, and he retired, and he did jobs that women were not and really still aren't allowed to do. We can do a lot more now than even then. And even then when I was I went in the late 90s. And so I didn't know that at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to go do this and, do all these things. And again, I had three brothers, so I'm trying to keep up with them and all of that. And so I made the decision when I was pretty young. I mean, there was other things that I wanted to do and accomplish, but I knew that that was going to be a part of my journey one way or another. And so I made the decision when I was fairly young to do it. A couple years later, my brother actually went into the reserves. So I watched him go through that journey. I had some family members that were in the military as well. And so then when since I knew that that was part of what I was going to do, I graduated high school early. I was just ready to kind of go out and explore the world. I knew that regardless of how much time I was going to spend I wasn't going to spend it in the United States. I was going to do whatever job, whatever role I could do to be traveling the world and have the government pay for it, which is what I actually ended up being able to accomplish. I'm grateful about that. By the time I was 23, I had lived on 4 different continents, traveled to 37 different countries and done some pretty incredible things. And so I am incredibly grateful that I had the opportunity to do that, and it's, I had some, even within the military, I had some pretty incredible jobs that are not very common, that are, I sometimes I downplay it, but they're not the easiest ones to get selected for. They're not the easiest ones for the school to pass. And so sometimes I forget that that's who I was, because, and I think you saw in the post there, there were some situations that happened and then life happened. And for a period of time there, I was really kind of knocked down and I forgot who I was when I went through that journey. And it really took a lot of work and self-reflection to start seeing that again, about myself.
So give us an example of one of the jobs that you did.
Well, when I first joined the military, I coordinated close air support. So it was my job to be the person that the people on the ground called to then figure out which aircraft or type of aircraft to send to go support the ground troops. So it could either be medical evacuation, supply drops, going to do close air support, which is can only be done in a wartime situation. And so you can kind of imagine what that entailed. And so, there was just sending basically supporting the ground troops with helicopters and different types of aircraft. So they would call us, we would figure that out, and then we would send the aircraft out there, tell them the coordinates, and then they would communicate then at that point. So that was my first job, which was really cool.
Okay, so you decide to go in.
Yes.
You're 16 and then you're 17. I love that story, like your birthday. What kind of training did you get before you went to your first foreign country?
So we did it's a 13-week boot camp that, the Marines like to say that it's the toughest one out there. And I don't know if people would argue, but, so we did the 13 weeks, just to throw that in there. So it's a 13-week boot camp that we go through. And then after that, we actually go through a 4-week, I think it's still I don't even remember if it's still that long or not, but it's about 4-week, about a month long combat training. So you're in the field the entire time, you're learning how to shoot different types of weapons and learning about different, tactics and all kinds of different fun stuff. And that's just to really become a Marine. That's not even going to the school yet to learn how to do the job that was going to be my job when I was in the service, right? So then after that, I went to do the school for that. Which was, I think, 4 months or so.
Was that in the United States, the school?
Yeah, all of that was in the United States. So that was in 29 Palms, California, which was pretty close to, it's about 3 hours from where I grew up. I'm from Southern California, so It wasn't too far away yet. So the initial training was on the East Coast. I had never been there. That was my first time on the East Coast when I went to boot camp. It's
Fort Knox, is that where you went?
It's Parris Island, South Carolina, actually. Oh. And then the combat training was in North Carolina.
Okay, so you grew up in California?
Yeah.
So till that time, had you been to the East Coast?
I had not, no, I had never been there.
California, East Coast, back to California.
Right.
Finished your training. And then what was the first country that you went to?
I went to Japan. Okinawa, Japan was my first duty station. I was there for about 2 years. I think it was just shy of 2 years because I got selected for this other job that I went to do. So my 18th birthday was actually in Japan.
Wow.
So here I am, not old enough to buy a pack of cigarettes. Not that I would have, but and I'm traveling the world and learning how to do all kinds of cool stuff.
Okay, so what you guys have to know about Maria? Okay, we've known her about 6 months. She's calm, cool, collected. I can say this. You're so sweet. You've got a very sweet, calming presence. Maria, I'm going to say this. You're a badass. Where did you get this? What did you have to connect with internally to be able to be 16 years old, say that you be 12 and say you want to do this, actually do it? Because I know when I was 12, I think I wanted to be, I don't know, wasn't what I'm doing now. So you knew what you wanted to do. You did it. You have to talk your parents, I think, into this, or
they were not on board at first.
Yeah, they were not on board. I can imagine their beautiful daughter. And you do this training. You're in Japan. What kind of inner strength did it take for you to keep going up until you left this country and then reacclimate as a foreigner in Japan? Like, what was it that really kept you going? And what was it that was like the fire inside you?
Failure was not an option for me. I set these goals and I was going to accomplish them. I wasn't that it was just something that I had to, if I set a goal, I was going to follow through with that. I think I've always had that drive ever since I was a little girl. I was always very impassioned, if you ask my parents. And so that's definitely a part of who I am, even still today. I think there was a period of time that I forgot that that's who I was. And I recently taken a journey to dig that back out.
I remember talking to you about that this summer.
Yeah.
So not to give up your age unless you want to. You are in the Marines for how many years?
6 years.
6 years total.
Mm-hmm.
Then, so just a couple of coolest place in the world you ever went.
Oh goodness, it's really difficult to think about that because I've been to a lot of really incredible things. So after I was in Japan, I was selected. I applied for and I was selected for the Embassy Guard program. So it's only a very tiny fraction. They graduate less than 200 a year in this school. They go and the Marines are the guards at the embassies overseas. That's who guards. When you walk into any embassy or any consulate overseas, you see a Marine, and it's a very small number of people that graduate every year. So I applied. I was told by many people, a lot of my superiors, the job that I had, women were only allowed like in the last 10, 15 years to do it. So some of the people that were there that were older when they first came into it weren't allowed, weren't around a lot of women. And so it was like, you can't do it. And I just remember what got me through that school. The attrition rate's about 60%. I mean, out of 100 people, 60 people fail that school. So the thing that kept me going is like, I am not going to go back there and tell them that they were right. There's no way that's going to happen, So I was able to graduate. And so my next duty station was in Eastern Europe and at the embassy in Sofia, Bulgaria. And then my second embassy was actually in West Africa in a country called Mali. A lot of people don't know about it. Everybody's heard of Timbuktu because it's a real place, and the Marine Corps sent me to Timbuktu. So the country that Timbuktu is in is Mali. I was in Bamako, which is a capital, but at the embassy there. But that was my second duty station. And from those two, I was able to take either vacations, trips, or other assignments that took me around those countries.
And being a young person, you just must have taken advantage of.
Oh, absolutely. We worked 6 days on, 4 days off. And so those 4 days off, if there was a flight I could take somewhere, I was on it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So you're protecting the embassies. Cool people that you met, saw, interacted with.
Well, you know that I was able to guard Colin Powell in, I think it was in 2001. Or 2000, yeah, I think it was 2001, 2002. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. I think it was 2001. I was able to guard Colin Powell. So that was pretty incredible because he was somebody that I admired from when I was a little girl, right? And so here I am getting to do that as part of a detail when he was doing some peace talks during some unrest in Europe at the time in the early thousands. So that's a really interesting piece. I'm trying to think of, there's just so many, it's like really hard to kind of pull and think of that. So
yeah, and I know I read your post and you just, what was the characteristic of Colin Powell that made you admire him so much?
He wasn't perfect. Nobody is, but he admitted his faults and he was loyal and he was, he had integrity and he was a trailblazer, right? For being a young officer, in the 60s, he really paved the way for a lot of African Americans to really take on some leadership roles. They're just minorities in general, right? Like I'm a first generation American. Both of my parents were born in Mexico. So to me, that's a huge deal. That's a huge part of who I am, and a part of, my culture is important to me on top of, being an American and the things that means as well.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come back, and what happens?
After I came back?
America, you're done with your service. What happens?
So, that there was like a decade there that was kind of what I call my dark years. There was some instances that, and for a long time, it took me a long time to be able to really talk and vocalize it. But, there's the PTSD that came with that, like I am a veteran that has that and has overcome a lot from it. So honestly, I came back, I got married. We're no longer married. I had two beautiful, wonderful, incredible children that they're, my pride and joy, and everything I do is for them. But so for a period of time there, just again, it's a struggle people don't talk about, but you come back, you're kind of disconnected from the world. I was gone overseas for 6 years, right? So it's it's an adjustment period at the time. I think now there's a little bit more support, but at the time there really wasn't. You know, the war had just started. It was in 2003. So everybody was busy with that. So a lot of people that were leaving at the time weren't, there wasn't a lot of support at the time. So it took me a long time to kind of figure out what was going on and advocate for those benefits and the treatment and everything that I deserved, right? That was a battle that I think a lot of veterans struggle with even today still, is kind of, we're proud, we don't want to go get help, and once you admit it, sometimes when you deal with a lot of the bureaucracy that some of the government systems have, you you give up because you're like, well, it's not worth it anyway, you know. So it took a lot. I think that was probably one of the, you forget everything I did in the military, I think being able to admit, overcome, and kind of follow through with all of that was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. But I knew that I needed to do it to be a better person for me, and to be a better mother, to be a better friend, to be a better, you know, everything.
And that was one of my next questions, was how did your experience in the military shape who you are today as a mother, a business leader, a community leader? What are your insights there?
I know that there's not an obstacle that will come in front of me that I can't figure out and tackle. Like, I know that that's part of, as a parent, as a business owner, I know that I will, you know, I will work through and figure things out. There's nothing that can't be overcome in one way, shape, or form. That's a big part of who I am. Loyalty too. Like, I think that you learn a certain level of just integrity and loyalty when you go through some of those experiences, and you live through some of the experiences with the people that you do and your you know, your fellow service members. And I think that's another part of who I am, you know, that's something that I carry with me, that I value. You know, relationships to me are number one.
Well, I have known, I know how much your children mean to you, and
Yeah.
most of our talking, Maria, is on through email, but I just wanted to invite you on because, again, I just think that I love interesting people with interesting
Yeah.
stories. I think the audience does as well. Please put in the chat if you have a question for Maria. Sarah can text it to me. Please thank her. But Maria, before we get into the fashion, because we're going to do a couple of little fashion things
Yes.
tonight, that's what we do here. Just thank you. Can you show some of the pictures that you
Yeah, I'll share my screen and show some
have?
pictures, and
Love
I know that we have a few minutes left, so we'll
we
just
could
kind
keep
of,
it a little longer tonight. This is an important message. And I think there's just so many young people out there that, college isn't for everybody.
right.
And I think that if you can, Maria saw the world, and got training, and you came back, and I know you have your MBA, and you
I
went to
do, yes.
college. And I knew I liked you immediately when we first met, and hearing your story, I know why I was drawn to you. So how old are you here?
This was my boot camp, the you know, boot camp picture that everybody, you have to make the meanest face possible. So I was 17 here. I was like 17 in like 3 months here. I was a baby.
And what are you thinking in that picture?
I was probably sleep deprived and exhausted. I probably wasn't thinking much, I'm sure.
And while we have that up, we can kind of segue into the fashion. Because I do a lot of public speaking. I always
Right.
use a lot of I talk about uniforms a lot.
Yeah.
Just to get people to think of like what their work uniform is, what their weekend
Right.
uniform is. And even I know when my kids were little, when I would be trying to get them to go to church, I would say, they didn't want to dress up. I'm like, Tom Brady would not go. Tom Brady, I know that you're from Kentucky, Maria, but Tom Brady's a god here. He's
Yes.
still my god. I would say Tom Brady would never go to the stadium on Sunday without his uniform. So you guys have to have your church uniform on to go
Yeah.
to go to church. But I just, in all my years doing this, we've had people that have come to us that are really struggling with coming up with what their personal brand is. So speak a little bit about what having a uniform, certainly one that signifies what a Marine uniform does. Like, what did that do to your mindset, and what was some of those lessons?
I think it really, to me, I think before the military, I probably would have been very against them. And now all about them because it simplifies, if you have a certain style that you're going to have to, go to work and or to go speak, or if you have a certain style, it's just less complicated. It's just easier to know what you're going to wear and how you're going to present yourself. And yeah, after I left the military, I was in the corporate world for a long time, so it was a lot of the button-up shirts, and that just wasn't who I was. Being in that environment, which is why I'm an entrepreneur now, is I like to work for myself. I like to graphic tees with a nice jacket. That's my uniform these days. And so that's
You have
that's
a
part of
sense
it.
of, I'm sure, I get the simplicity. That's what most people
Yeah.
say. I'm sure. So how did you feel though when you were in that uniform and you were protecting the US Embassy? Like,
Oh, there's an absolute sense of pride. There's you feel unstoppable, really.
oh, great. Because yeah, so much of our message, as you know, Maria, is the power of clothing and having the right clothes in the right moment that
Yeah,
work for you. So I look at that picture and I do see a very young person.
I am. And here's another one here that
Yeah, let's put this
I
next.
was,
Oh my
so we
goodness.
would go up in I'm in a flight suit here. So I was probably 18 in this picture, maybe 19, 18 or 19 here.
Wow. That you're a
So
beast.
a lot of that olive color, I wear a lot of it even today still.
Yeah, I remember when we did the program, Maria was monitoring the olive program that we did, and I remember
Yeah.
people were so into that. Now I know why. So,
The olive and the boots.
and the boots, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see the next one. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
so this is at the Marine
Story.
Security Guard School. This was in Quantico, Virginia. So we trained at the Marine base there, and then they have like a joint kind of training area with FBI. So we use some of their facilities to do training as well. So that's at the school there. This year is my graduation from Marine Security Guard School here.
Wow, that's you. Oh my
This
goodness.
is me right here.
So cool.
Yeah, I was, I believe, 20 here.
And
I wasn't even old enough to drink yet.
were your parents there? Were they?
No, but my brother lived in North Carolina at the time, so this was in Quantico, Virginia. So he went, and his mother-in-law lives out there. So they're they were always very supportive and would go to all of my stuff here. So
Oh, that is such a big deal.
so
And they,
this was also in Bulgaria. I was a sergeant here. That's the rank that I was when I left.
and I
This was
love
at one
when
of the
your
balls.
demeanor starts to change. I was looking at the pictures today when you sent them. I was like, oh my goodness, look at how happy you are.
Yes, I started to let go a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Great.
This here is I was doing a guarding detail with they were doing like a joint. I can't remember exactly what document, but this was in Sofia, and this is the Prime Minister of Bulgaria at the time. And this is one of the cool people I think I met. He was he would have been the crown prince. So the monarchy in Bulgaria, in that area, stopped at World War II, and his family was like they had to go in hiding when that happened, right? When World War II was going on. And so they went to Spain. So he spoke Spanish, and I was able, because I'm fluent in Spanish, I was able to actually speak to him because of that connection, which is really, really neat.
That is neat. Really.
Yeah. And so then this was when I did the detail. This was in Macedonia, and when Colin Powell was doing some peace talks there. So this detail group was made up of Army, Marines, Navy, and Air Force.
Awesome. And he was military. Colin Powell was big time military. Yeah.
Right. So he was a general.
Yeah, general. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So this was in Africa. So this was in Mali. So we would always have like a 4th of July event at the compound where we lived, and this was a picture from that area there.
Wow. I hope you guys were all, I love this stuff. I could look at pictures all day long. So I think next one is going to be
Yes.
that I put
So
in.
beautiful.
Yeah. So this is my mom and dad. My dad's been gone 26 years, but my father was served 4 years and 2 years at Holy Cross, ROTC. And then he and my mom, they got married, God, right when he graduated in 62. My mom's probably on the call. You can put in the chat, or my aunt, I think, is on if it's different than that. But I actually have that uniform here in the house with me.
Oh, wow. That's
I
amazing.
brought it up. And my dad was so slim. Oh my goodness. I remember trying it on one time and I couldn't even button it.
Oh, wow.
And my mom lived in California. That's where my brother Neil was born. And I talked to my mom this morning and got all the information, but Camp Pendleton in California
Yes.
during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was I don't know what she said. You would know better than I didn't write it down.
So he's definitely, I think he looks like he's a lieutenant. He was an officer.
He was an officer, yes.
Yeah.
And he left just before Vietnam. He passed 26 years ago. He was 55. So that was,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's very young.
Picture. Isn't that beautiful?
It's stunning. And I love a lot of, you can probably see for my photo shoot, like I love anything that's vintage, like 90s, 80s, 50s. So I'm like, those dresses in the back, I would wear those now.
Yeah, I know. That's my Aunt Joan and Mark Van Houten, Rusty Van Houten. Those are my brother Tim's godparents. Nice. And my father's really good friend is right behind him. And he's godfather of my sister. And actually Joan is my godmother. So yeah, it's just an incredible picture. And then the next one is my dad's father, who I never met. And he was in the Navy. And he has a connection to the gentleman that you connected with, the Prime Minister, because he was in the Second World War.
Okay.
In Norfolk, he was in the Navy, and my grandmother was home with two small kids. He died at age 42.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very young.
Yeah. So my brother Neil has that picture in his house, and my sister-in-law Ellen got it for me, but I just love that photo. Isn't that beautiful?
It is absolutely. I love these old photos. You know, these are the men and women that shaped, you know, our country. So it's very, very, very brave people for sure. Yeah. And it's always inspiring.
Yeah, so I think we'll end. I mean, we've gone. I hope that you guys don't mind. This is really important for me to do this today. We do have I have my entire coat closet pulled for you. But if you guys are okay, I'm tired. I'm planning this retreat this weekend, which has taken me, I'm going to tell you how late I was. And you know, Sarah and I were just so excited to have you on, Maria. It's just, again, we just love stories. I love bringing perspective. We wove the fashion piece in. Next week, we're doing a whole show on winter accessories. And we have a brand new vendor who we're starting to partner with. They're going to be at the retreat with us. So maybe if you guys are okay with it, maybe next week I do the coats and the accessories at the same time. Because I don't know how I transition into all-out fashion mode after hearing your story, Maria, seeing those pictures of my dad and my grandpa. So thank you for that. That's
my pleasure.
Gave me, yeah, I miss. I never met my grandfather, but I miss my dad. That's for sure.
Yes,
he's quite a leader. He was also very entrepreneurial and giving. And Maria, I knew I liked you the minute I met you. We hit it off, and I think your story is powerful, and I'm glad you found your way back to you, and I wish you the best with your business. And if anybody is in need of figuring out technology, operations, spreadsheets, Maria is just wonderful to work with. So I'm going to wrap it up tonight. Anything else you'd like to say, Maria?
No, just thank you for having me on. I usually like to hide behind the camera, but this is something that I'm trying to do more of, is getting myself in front of the camera. So I appreciate the invitation, and it's been a pleasure.
Okay, awesome. Maria, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. We'll see you again next week. Maria will be on the other side of the camera.
Yes.
She's also great about being in the chat. So, and she can go in if you have a comment or a question for her, or if you have a young person in your life that might be thinking about a career in the military and they need someone to talk to. I think I can speak for Maria and say she'd be happy to connect with.
Absolutely. I'll jump in the chat for sure.
Okay. So, okay, everybody have a great night, and we'll catch up again next week. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Maria.